What's up, everyone? Welcome to D's Pod, the D Talks podcast, where simply put, me, talks. And this is season 1, episode 2. It's been a long, fun ride. Who would have thought we'd make it to 2 episodes of the podcast already? That's crazy. Thanks for sticking around for 2 weeks. I know it's been a lot. But anyways, getting into the topic today. While we're on the topic of seasons, that's today's episode. If you couldn't tell by looking at the title, it's called Seasonal. We're talking about seasons and change and kind of embracing change instead of trying to fight it, right? Because life is going to be life. Life is going to, have its changes, have its transitions, and we don't have control over when we're going to be tasked with going through these seasonal changes. So instead, what we have to do is go into these next seasons, these next situations with open arms, an open spirit, an open heart, and kind of ready for whatever opportunities lie in the promised land, which I'm going to expand on a little bit more as well later on in the cast. But as for right now, the question of the day. Close your eyes, right? You're in sleep. You're in bed, asleep, right? It's nighttime. It's about 12 a.m. because I'm just assuming that y'all are responsible. You go to bed on time so you can get up early and do your thing when it's time to do your thing. But, you're sleeping, you're ruffling around. Your feet. Focus on your feet, right? Keep your eyes closed and focus on your feet. Socks on or off? That's today's question. When you sleep, do you sleep with your socks on or off? Stick around till the end. You'll get my answer to the question. Anyways, you can open your eyes now or, not if you chose to not participate in today's activity. Getting into the meat and taters of the cast, new seasons, right? New seasons, new things. I believe it's September 21st that marks the start of fall. I could be wrong, but I highly doubt it. I'll look it up after I record because I'm not going to waste time right now looking that up. But yes, new seasons. So what does that mean? Transition, changes. The leaves, they go from green to red, orange, yellow, and then eventually brown or whatever order that is. Unless you're an evergreen tree, then you're green all year round. Shout out to the evergreen trees. I'm allergic to pine pollen, but regardless of my asthma, regardless of my disability that I won't let define me, shout out to y'all, for real. New things, new journeys, everything is seasonal, downtimes, uptimes, whatever it is, right? So since life is going to come with its kind of cyclical nature, be ready for the changing seasons, right? Don't fight it. It's nothing to fight. You're punching the air. Be ready for that change because it's going to happen. I'll preface my next point by kind of describing something we talked about in psychology, which is bipolar disorder. And so basically, everyone has a baseline for kind of behavior, for emotion, for feelings. Baseline is just kind of them when they're not too overly on either side of the spectrum, either pole. And people who have bipolar, be it 1 or 2, their moods, their imbalances in chemicals, I believe. Don't quote me on this. It's been a while since I've taken the class and looked at these notes, but I know that what I'm prefacing at least is true. So they swing from manic or hypomanic, which is kind of a lower grade of mania, to depressed. And the back and forth polarity is where the name bipolar disorder comes from. If you're bipolar 1, you go full manic. If you're 2, I believe you just go hypomanic, and then, you have your depressive episodes and stuff. And then there's other behaviors such as major depressive disorder that kind of just go from baseline to depressed or super depressed. I don't know what the 2 is for them, but I know hypomanic and manic for bipolar. But anyways, we're going to have something similar to that swinging, for lack of better words. Sorry for the terminology. I'm not going to re-record this or anything. I like to kind of make it really authentic, genuine, and just honest. And so I'm not an expert. I did take the class, so I definitely should be more versed in the terminology, but it's been a while, right? Forgive me. Have grace. But yes, so in life, we're going to have our up times where things are going good. We hit some momentum. We're making, achievements, accomplishments, whatever it is. And we should celebrate those because those times don't last forever. And it's important to celebrate when you do achieve something, right? But equally, you will have downtimes. And in these downtimes, you shouldn't kind of just let them prolong. You should say, okay, I'm in a downtime where I feel like I'm in a downtime, because really it's subjective. What can I do in this downtime to maybe make it to where I'm not as down next time? Or what can I do now to prepare for the next uptime, right? Because again, everything is cyclical. It's up and down whether we like it or not. And so, learn lessons in your downtime and see if there are areas in your life where you feel like you can grow. But life is cyclical, always has been, always will be. And so you will always have kind of times where you're experiencing both of those, right? And so because it's out of your control, you might as well prepare yourself instead of, again, trying to fight the air to prevent stuff from happening, because that's not how life works. But in preparing yourself, we'll move on to the next point. I was once told that when you embark on a journey, you always begin with a departure. And that departure can be a physical one if you're leaving somewhere. It could be people, you're departing people, leaving them behind, or you're just, leaving, like I said, a departure, or habits, behaviors, whatever it is. Anytime you are embarking on a journey, you have to leave somewhere to get to somewhere else, right? And a story to kind of depict this, or today's whole seasonal thing, is a story of Moses in the Bible, right? So Moses is leading his people from Egypt to the promised land, right? But to get from point A to point B, they have to go through an extended period of time where there's a lot of trials, a lot of uncomfortable times in the wilderness, right? Where their faith is really tested. And when they're going through these hard times, this is a story that my pastor talked about yesterday. Though Egypt is not the promised land, they're tempted to go back because they knew, at least in going back to Egypt, what they were kind of up against. They knew, back there was slavery. It was, not the best situation, not ideal, but they knew at least what they were up against, what to prepare for. But why would you go back when you have the promised land that's ahead of you, right? He said, if you're going through hell, don't stop, right? Don't stop. Don't look back. There's a reason why when you're driving, right? Pretend you're driving in whatever car you have. Your windshield is huge. It's this huge window in front of you into the outside world, outside of your car. Your windshield's big, but your rearview mirror is so small. It's tiny, because while it is important to look back and see either where you came from or see, what's behind you occasionally, it's not as important, not nearly as important as focusing on what's ahead, focusing on what's in front of you. You don't drive forward looking at your rearview mirror, right? Whenever you're switching gears, you're transitioning. Again, my bad for the terminology, but whenever you're driving forward, and pretend you have a manual car, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. When you go backwards, have you noticed it doesn't change? Because you're not supposed to be going backwards for extended periods of time. You're supposed to be going forward for the majority of the time, if not, well, I won't say all the time, but the majority of the time you're driving your car, you're going forward. And so that's why there's different gears for when you're driving forward. Focus on what's ahead. Be ready for what's ahead. Look ahead while you're moving ahead. Don't look backwards, because what's back there? Egypt's back there. You don't want to go back to Egypt. Go to the promised land. God said, hey, I got a promised land. Moses, take your people there. Don't go back, because I got this for you, right? And the same goes for opportunities in life. Something's ahead, something's coming, and you have to be able to look forward and go into these next seasons, these next situations with open arms, an open mind, and an open heart. And you have to shed Egypt. You have to shed the past, whatever was behind, in order to make room for what there is to come, right? And so if you don't have, how I see it is like a basket, right? If you have a basket of apples, let's just say apples for the scenario, you have to kind of put down apples to make room for more apples because you have a limited amount of space for how many apples you can have in your basket. Apples are going bad because they're old. Then, take those apples out, let them go, travel light, pack light, go through whatever season transition you got, and then get to the next season where you could put more apples in your basket. Because if you go into your next season with old, nasty, rotten, moldy apples, there's not going to be any more room in your basket for whatever nice new apples are there for you in your promised land, right? So, yeah, don't hold on to stuff that you're supposed to leave in a past season going into your next season, right? Don't spend too much time looking in that rearview mirror when you're driving forward because you're going to crash, right? It's not safe. Don't do that. And so yeah, it's very important. Focus on, what's to come, be open to it. And most importantly, when you're going into these next seasons, you got to understand that God's got you, right? Have faith, have belief, and just knowing that whatever you're going to step into, so long as you're doing your due diligence, leaving stuff behind that you're supposed to leave behind, and going into this new season with an empty basket, ready to take in more, you'll be fine, right? You'll actually be better off because now in this season, you're more equipped with things that you were supposed to have instead of trying to carry extra weight, travel or not travel light from a past season going into this new season, right? And another way to kind of depict this, sorry, this is all over the place with the examples. It's my podcast, so my rules. And I'm basically done with my points, but I really want to hammer home just kind of the importance of openness, having an open mind, and being willing to take in what's next. Because one thing that I've definitely struggled with growing up and even in my adulthood is the ability to let things go. It's hard to let things go. We're familiar with people, familiar with situations, familiar with just things in general. And it's important to kind of leave that familiarity if it means what's coming next is better. It's for you, But once you're able to kind of do that, then the world is literally your oyster. But back to my analogy, whenever I'm traveling places, I like to shop. I like to get souvenirs for people. If there's some clothes that I see, I like to buy clothes. And so I always travel with extra room in my bag. I'll bring, everything I need, of course, but I'll always leave some space for whatever comes next. And you should kind of have that same mentality when it comes to life in general, right? Have your essentials, have everything that you need always, but always have room available for whatever opportunity, whatever chance there is at your next destination. Because truly, you never know what's going to be there. And if you don't have any room for it, if you're not open to opportunities or whatever it is, you might miss out on some blessings, right? You might miss out on some things that could have been meant for you, but because you weren't open to accepting them, open to taking things in, you're stuck with the same old stuff, same old situation, same old everything, right? And so, yeah, that's basically all I have for today. This one is a little shorter than the first episode, the first EP. I say a little shorter. I don't remember how long the first EP was. I think it was like 20 some minutes. We're just now hitting around 15. But anyways, to wrap things all off, to bring it all full circle, cyclical, right? Like we've been talking about this whole podcast, to bring things back. Step into your seasons ready, open. Go from Egypt to your promised land. But on your way there, when you're going through the wilderness, shake off Egypt, shake off the past, and be ready, be open for what's to come in the promised land. Because God can't give you what's meant for you if you don't come to him with open arms, right? If you don't come to these scenarios, these new seasons with open availability, right? Closed mouths don't get fed, closed hands don't get fed. So the same applies, travel light when you're going places because, you might see something you like in this next season. And if you're not ready to take it, if you don't got any room for it, then hey, somebody else will. They'll appreciate it. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Back to our question of the day, sleeping. Socks on or off? I'm socks off. I'm socks off for sure. Because I don't know. I feel like if you sleep with socks on, that's a little problematic. That's a red flag for me. I won't judge out loud, but I would definitely think, oh, you got the socks on while you're going to sleep. You can't just put the blanket over your toes. I don't want to hear it. Socks off all the way. But again, if you sleep with your socks on, no judgment, overtly at least. Thank y'all for tuning in to this second EP of the Detox Podcast. Like I said, every week I'm trying to pump something out for you guys. I really enjoy making these podcasts. They say to invest in your gifts because God gave them to you for a reason. This is something, again, that I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to kind of make this kind of content to share my piece, share my story, share what I've learned. If it's not personal experience, then, maybe stuff that I've just learned in observation or reading and stuff like that. And, I know it won't bring value to literally everyone. Nothing ever does. I mean, except water. That brings value to everyone. You kind of need that. That's an essential. But, if these podcasts bring value to, 1, 2, however many people, then, my work here is done, right? Everybody has a story. Everybody has a piece that they can share, that they should share. I think it's selfish to kind of go through experiences and not share your testimony on these experiences, because this is just me talking for myself. I'm not saying you're selfish if you've been through stuff and you don't feel like sharing. That's perfectly fine. But for myself, I feel I was given a voice. I feel I was given gifts, and I was given inclinations, urges, and just, for lack of better words, divine gifts. And in those gifts, I should spread, not just the word of God and the gospel, but also my testimony, because some people might be going through some things that I'm talking about, and hearing that somebody's gone through it could be helpful. Hearing that it's possible to get through it can be helpful. If it's someone that's close to me, seeing that someone close to them that's gone through these things or understand these things could be helpful. And just the message in general, I'm not saying nothing wrong, and so that'll definitely help out anyone that's open to it. Anyone that traveled light enough to make space for it. But anyways, that's it. We're almost getting to 20 minutes. Thank y'all. Drink water. Stay safe. Have a good week. Be nice to people. And sleep with your socks off. Because if you don't, it's a little weird. But all right.